All right, I've had a cable outage, so I figured it's a good time to make a video. So what we're going to talk about now is what I call the divisional rotation, or the crescendo rotation. What you hear, let's remind everyone that I've got things in my ears and I hear voices. I get voice to skull audio harassment. I'm gang stalked. I've elaborated on that. It's not as bad as it used to be. So if you're getting this, resist. Most of them won't do anything. The ones that do are cowards. So mostly. The divisional rotation. What started, I've explained what I've heard over the last 7 years since it started. Well, since the actual hearing stuff started. The rotation consisted of sensitizing to phonemes. I have a video on those. How that works, it takes years. While that's going on, you're being interrogated. There comes a point when, and they like to pair sets of words with landmarks in your life. So let's say you move, you switch jobs, you do things like that. Big changes or any changes that are significant, they like to pair with, sets of words. So in order for them to own some change in your life, like you move, they will start new sets of words. They'll start they'll include 3 or 4 or 5 new words. This has happened to me several times when it's happened when I've become homeless. That's one time it happened. It happened when I've gotten a job. It's happened when, it's a way they can try to dominate a landmark in your life, a waypoint. If you have this long enough, you'll realize that is kind of central, even though when it started you had no clue what was going on. But anyway, now, what I hear now is not the same as what I heard years ago. I'm hearing some of the same objects that I heard years ago. I'm hearing, they go back and they go through your memory. So as they do this, they establish, think of it as a timeline. And as you progress through the timeline, you hear sets of words. If you have a good memory, you'll be able to pair those sets of words with time, with the temporal reality or something like it. So in other words, you'll have a memory that'll be paired with this word. You'll have something blah, 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 blah. Well, what they're trying to do is take your memories that you have paired with words and then adopt those and get your memory off of those and try to fear you into some other set of words that they constantly orate. Or force you to search for. They do that by driving you away from objects. This is like an object-based attack. So objects are things you recognize with your conscious memory. They might be a fork or a spoon or an energy drink or a computer or a person, a place. They like to tell me that it's because of emotional attachments. This is what I hear from them. It's just one of the things they say. It isn't. That's only recent too. They only started that particular story within the last year. Not even that long. Their stories change constantly, and their stories are presented to you in a symbolism. And the symbolism is presented to you in strings of words. The strings of words always include each other and always are defined by each other. So in other words, they give you a word like, backpack. They did this to me. Backpack, actually, and that was also paired with military. The reason why I heard those was because I had a backpack that was camouflage. So they decided to attack me with that, probably because other people saw it, and that, you know, they pick words out of people's memories, and literally, like on Star Trek, they'll take an idea, and they'll just pass it around. It's like BitTorrent. It's not an idea so much as it's a symbol. So ideas are different than symbols. Symbols require some metaphors. It requires some additional objects for you to add to them. Symbols require some faith. You know, they're vague. They're obtuse. They're not clear. That's the form of disassociation that they're at with me at this point, after 7 years of this. They take objects, and it's more than, they were doing that to me years ago too. In fact, that is the center. They take objects and pair things with them. Okay? Meanwhile, while they're taking objects and pairing things with them, which is what they do in the psychobabble that you hear, that is programmed, well, it's like a Fox News delivery. I've talked about that. It's a set of variables and ideas, symbols, all, because they're given to you so quickly that your brain is, well, they try to get your brain to make rationalizations with them and to create structure in your brain based on these sets of words that you hear constantly after you're sensitized, and during that. They attack fluctuations in your brainwave pattern. They pair that with what I call the reflection of torment, which is if you've got this long enough, you realize it's like a reflection of your brainwave pattern. They can attack any. That's why it feels like it's like whenever your brainwave pattern fluctuates. So it might be when you need to go to the bathroom, which is what they did to me like 7 years ago. It was horrible. Your body gets over it eventually, and it just doesn't do it anymore. I got so freaked out from this at first, in the first few months, that I couldn't, like, you go to the bathroom for 3 weeks, and it was horrible. That's been many years, though, and it's never been a problem since. Your body just gets used to it, and it deletes that little loop out of its fucking hardwiring. So the same amount of pressure or torture on you, sleep deprivation, stalking, sensitization, word abuse from people who repeat the words you're sensitized to, stress, not being able to sleep. Mainly the sleep is the problem. Most people could function. You can put up with anything, I swear to God, but when you can't sleep, and you can't go home and be peaceful in your house and sleep and have that, your life gets destroyed. So anyway, back to what was going on. Now, okay, about a year ago, after I moved out of this place I lived where I was just terrorized, they were violating my space. That was before the place that I described in my my video before the last one. Okay. I lived in a town called Junction City about a year ago, and that place was also stalked. And someone there had a key, and again, I think it was the same MO. The landlord doesn't change the lock, and I think they just give the key to the neighbor, or somehow magically drop a key outside. I saw that happen at the place I lived most recently. There was a key sitting on the walk one day, just magically sitting there. Well, some people might pick that up and see what door it fits. Some people might pick it up, and immediately the group, people torturing them, get a signal that they're looking at a key, or they even see it, depending on what the technology is and what's going on. But key gets in the memory, key, and then all of a sudden, number 5, you hear it. You'd hear it. This is how they do shit. So it's like passive, and it's a group thing controlled by some third party somewhere else. So literally, it is a little bit like gods or something, Plato's stepchildren. So what they're doing with me now is, a year ago they started a new rotation. And they take years to set up chains of words that your memory will react to. At first you don't understand it, but it's groups of words, okay? And as the years go by, you get sensitized to new groups of words until you're sensitized to all 46 phonemes in the English language. That's my theory anyway, because there are 46 phonemes in the English language. And they're doing this, and as you get this, you begin to realize that there's a web. And the web starts to kind of take a corporeal shape, although it's hard to explain after years of it. And what happens is what was just one word you'd react to, your brain would be trained. Because, again, you hear the same sets of words in very narrow configurations, or just hearing the same sets of words, being very narrow, being sleep deprived with the same narrow sets of words, which I explained in one of my other videos, phoneme sensitization. You react to those, and as the years go by, they try to get you to react to more than one at a time. So, and they do that by constantly defining new words that come into your torture set of words that you are forced to hear. The narrow one, the denial of service, the short-term memory interrupter. Those words are defined with the words you've already been tortured with almost exclusively, meaning they're paired so you hear them together. They're not defined like Webster's. They're paired like objects. Okay, so you need to recognize this when they're doing it, and if you can do that, you'll see it. But so now, so they'll get you to go through a chain of objects sometimes. They'll try to get you to regurgitate that through your short-term memory. And they'll even give you, if you're not doing it enough, they'll give you cues like a jazz pianist will to a singer. If you know music, in jazz, or they'll say if the singer's weak on a note, the piano player will be playing a measure, and then you'll hear a note that's not in the key, just randomly, and you'll think it is, but it's for the singer. And the singer will catch that because that's the next measure. That's the next. Then they need this piano player knows that they're weak on that tone or something. So it helps them. They do exactly the same thing to people. I'm going to make 2 videos out of this. So I've laid the groundwork for how they get you into a thing I call the divisional rotation or the crescendo rotation. And I'm going to stop this and continue in a minute or two.